Jake Morrison stood at the edge of the viewing platform, looking out at the massive space station that stretched beyond what his eyes could see. The metal walls gleamed under the artificial lights, and strange symbols covered every surface. This place was called Kepler Station, and it was bigger than any city he had ever seen back on Earth. "First time seeing something like this, Sergeant?" asked Corporal Lisa Grant as she walked up beside him. She was a small woman with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. Like Jake, she wore the standard Earth military uniform, but here among all the alien technology, it looked simple and plain. "Yeah," Jake replied, his voice steady despite the wonder he felt. "Makes you think about how big the universe really is." Behind them, Private Tony Rodriguez was checking his equipment for the third time. He was nervous, and it showed in the way he kept adjusting his gear belt. "I still can't believe we're actually here," he muttered. "6 months ago, I was just a regular soldier. Now I'm about to fight alongside aliens." Private Amy Walsh laughed softly. She was the youngest of their group, barely 21, but she had proven herself in combat training back on Earth. "Come on, Tony. Where's your sense of adventure? This is the chance of a lifetime." Jake turned to face his squad. These 3 soldiers were the best Earth had to offer, and they had been chosen carefully for this mission. The Galactic Defense Council had invited Earth to join their alliance, but first, humanity had to prove it could fight alongside the other species. This trial would test everything they had learned about combat, tactics, and survival. "Listen up," Jake said, his voice taking on the tone of command. "I know this is all new and strange, but remember your training. We represent all of humanity today. Every move we make, every decision we take, will be watched and judged by beings from across the galaxy." The space station hummed with activity around them. Strange creatures moved through the corridors, some walking on 2 legs like humans, others floating or moving in ways that seemed impossible. Jake had studied the files on the major alien species, but seeing them in person was different. A tall, reptilian creature approached their group. Its scales were dark green, and its eyes were yellow with vertical pupils like a snake. This was Commander Veltar of the Zephyrians, one of the most respected military leaders in the galaxy. "Human soldiers," Veltar said, his voice carrying a slight hiss. "I am Commander Veltar. I will be observing your performance during the trials." Jake saluted in the human military style. "Sergeant Jake Morrison, sir. This is my squad." Veltar's eyes studied each of them carefully. "Your species is young and untested. Many here believe you are not ready for the responsibilities of galactic defense. You will have the opportunity to prove them wrong or confirm their doubts." "We're ready, sir," Jake replied firmly. The Zephyrian commander nodded slowly. "We shall see. Follow me. The trial chamber awaits." They walked through corridors filled with technology that seemed like magic to human eyes. Holographic displays showed information in languages Jake couldn't read. The air itself seemed to shimmer in some places, and he could feel the hum of enormous energy systems running through the station. Other alien species moved past them. Jake recognized some from his briefings. The Manthari looked like giant insects, with multiple arms and compound eyes that reflected light like mirrors. They moved in perfect coordination, as if they shared a single mind. The Voidkin were harder to understand, appearing as shifting clouds of energy that took on almost solid forms when they needed to interact with physical objects. "Look at them all," Lisa whispered. "Each species probably has thousands of years of military experience. And here we are, barely able to travel between planets." "Don't let that get to you," Jake said quietly. "We might be new, but we're not weak. Humans have been fighting wars for as long as we've existed. We know how to adapt and survive." They entered a vast chamber that took Jake's breath away. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into darkness, and the walls were covered with screens, showing different environments. In the center of the room stood various alien warriors, each representing their species' finest soldiers. A floating platform carried what appeared to be the judges of the trial. These were ancient beings from species that had been part of the galactic community for millions of years. Their technology was so advanced that they seemed more like gods than soldiers. "Welcome, warriors of all species," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Today you will face the great trial. This test will measure your combat skills, your ability to work with advanced technology, and your courage in the face of danger." Jake felt his heart rate increase slightly, but his training kept him calm. Around him, he could see the alien warriors preparing themselves in their own ways. Some performed ritual movements. Others checked weapons that looked like they belonged in science fiction movies. "The first test will be individual combat," the voice continued. "You will face automated defense systems using plasma-based weapons. These weapons are standard throughout the galaxy and are designed to incapacitate rather than kill. Medical teams stand ready to treat any injuries." Tony glanced at Jake nervously. "Plasma weapons? That sounds serious." "Everything's serious here," Amy replied. "But we've trained for this. We can handle whatever they throw at us." The alien warriors began moving toward their starting positions. Jake noticed how carefully they handled their equipment, especially anything related to the plasma weapons. They moved with a kind of caution that suggested deep respect for the danger these weapons represented. "Squad, let's show them what humans can do," Jake said, leading his team toward their designated area. The trial chamber reconfigured itself around them, creating individual combat zones for each participant. Jake found himself in a space that looked like a ruined city, with broken buildings and scattered debris providing cover. In the distance, he could see the glowing forms of automated defense turrets that would be his opponents. He checked his equipment one final time. His rifle was a standard Earth weapon, modified to work with alien energy cells. His armor was basic by galactic standards, but it was familiar and comfortable. Most importantly, he had his training, his experience, and his determination. "Beginning. Trial in 10 seconds. The voice announced. Jake took a deep breath and focused his mind. Whatever happened next, he would face it with the same courage that had carried humanity through countless battles on Earth. The aliens might have superior technology and thousands of years of experience, but they had never faced anything quite like a human Marine. The trial began, and Jake Morrison stepped forward to make history. The first plasma bolt flew past Jake's head, leaving a trail of superheated air that made his skin tingle. The automated defense turret swiveled toward him, its sensors tracking his movement as he dove behind a concrete barrier. The energy weapon charged up again with a high-pitched whine that seemed to cut through the air itself. Jake rolled to his right, just as another plasma bolt struck where he had been hiding. The concrete glowed red-hot for a moment before cooling, leaving a smooth, melted crater. He could feel the heat radiating from the impact point, even from several feet away. Through his earpiece, he could hear the other members of his squad engaging. Their own targets. Lisa's voice came through clearly as she called out enemy positions. Tony was breathing hard, but still moving. Amy was actually laughing as she outmaneuvered her opponents. "These things pack a punch." Tony's voice crackled through the comm system. One of those bolts just melted through a steel beam like it was butter. Jake peered around his cover and spotted 2 more turrets activating in the distance. Their sensors swept the area with red laser beams, searching for targets. He knew he had to move quickly before they could coordinate their attacks. In the observation deck above, alien military leaders watched the trials with intense interest. Commander Veltar stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his reptilian eyes focused on the human participants. Beside him, Hive Queen Zixra of the Manthari made clicking sounds that served as her species' form of communication. The humans moved differently than other species, Veltar observed. They seemed less concerned about the plasma weapons. Indeed, replied Zixra, her voice carrying the strange harmony that came from her hive-mind connection. Most species treat plasma fire as an absolute threat. These humans treat it as merely another obstacle. On the other side of the observation deck, Essence Speaker Mordeth of the Voidkin floated in his energy form. Tendrils of consciousness extended toward the trial chamber. His species could sense emotions and physical states, and what he was. Detecting from the humans puzzled him greatly. Their fear responses are unusual, Mordeth communicated through telepathic projection. They acknowledge the danger, but do not allow it to control their actions. Back in the trial chamber, Jake had worked his way closer to the first turret. He could see its targeting system trying to lock onto him, the red laser beam sweeping back and forth across the rubble where he was hiding. The weapon systems were advanced, but they followed predictable patterns. Jake timed his movement carefully. When the turret began its sweep to the left, he sprinted to the right, using a destroyed vehicle as cover. The turret's sensors took a moment to reacquire him, and in that brief window, he was able to get within effective range of his rifle. The plasma turret fired just as Jake pulled the trigger. His bullet struck the turret's sensor array, causing it to spark and spin wildly. But the plasma bolt was already in flight, and Jake couldn't dodge it completely. The superheated energy struck him in the left shoulder, burning through his uniform and into his skin. The impact spun him around and sent him stumbling backward. Pain shot through his nervous system, sharp and intense. Like being branded with a hot iron dot in the observation deck, the alien leaders leaned forward, expecting to see the human collapse or call for medical assistance. Plasma weapons were designed to cause immediate incapacitation through a combination of heat damage and neural shock. Most species required immediate medical treatment after being hit by plasma fire. But Jake Morrison did something that none of them expected. He looked down at his shoulder, saw the smoking burn mark on his uniform, and flexed his arm experimentally. The pain was real and significant, but it was just pain. He had been hurt worse during training exercises back on Earth. A drill sergeant had once told him that pain was just weakness leaving the body, and Jake had taken that lesson to heart. That's going to leave a mark, he muttered to himself, then turned his attention back to the remaining turrets. Commander Veltar's jaw dropped open, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Did that human just ignore a direct plasma hit? That is impossible. Zixra clicked rapidly. Plasma weapons cause severe neural disruption. The human should be unconscious, or at least severely impaired. Mordeth's energy form pulsed with confusion. His pain receptors are active. He is experiencing the full effects of the plasma burn. Yet he continues to function at normal combat efficiency. The other trial participants were not faring as well. A Zephyrian warrior had taken a glancing blow to his arm and was now crouched behind cover, applying emergency medical gel to the wound. His scales had turned pale, and he was breathing heavily from the shock. A Manthari soldier had been grazed by plasma fire and was immediately surrounded by her hive mates, who were administering treatments and checking her vital signs. The injury was minor, but the entire unit had paused their advance to ensure she received proper care. Meanwhile, Jake was already engaging the second turret. He moved with the same speed and precision as before, showing no signs that the plasma burn was affecting his performance. He used the terrain to his advantage, staying low and moving between cover points while the turret tried to track him. The alien medical staff monitoring the trials were equally confused. Dr. Kethmo, a Zephyrian physician, was studying the readings from Jake's biosensors with growing bewilderment. "These readings make no sense," he told his assistant. The human has suffered significant tissue damage from the plasma burn. His pain receptors are firing at maximum intensity, yet his combat effectiveness remains at baseline levels. Perhaps their species has natural resistance to plasma energy? Suggested the assistant. No, Dr. Kethmel replied, shaking his head. The tissue damage is consistent with what we would expect. It is their response to the damage that is unprecedented. Jake had reached an advantageous position and was preparing to engage the second turret when he heard Lisa's voice over the comm system. Jake, you've got 2 more turrets coming online to your east. They're trying to flank you. Copy that, Jake replied, his voice steady despite the burning pain in his shoulder. Tony, Amy, what's your status? I'm good, Amy responded. Just finished my second turret. These things aren't too bad once you figure out their timing. Still working on mine, Tony admitted. This plasma fire is no joke. One of those bolts nearly took my head off. Jake smiled grimly. His shoulder throbbed with each heartbeat, but he had learned long ago to push through discomfort. Pain was information, nothing more. It told him he was injured, but it didn't tell him to stop fighting. He lined up his shot on the second turret and squeezed the trigger. The bullet found its mark, and the turret exploded in a shower of sparks. 2 down, 2 to go. The remaining turrets had repositioned themselves to create a crossfire pattern. Jake would have to cross open ground to reach them, and they would have clear shots at him during the approach. Most participants would wait for the turrets to cycle their targeting systems or look for alternative routes. Instead, Jake stood up and began walking directly toward them. The plasma bolts came fast and accurate. Jake dodged the first one by dropping to one knee, fired a shot that disabled the nearest turret, then rolled to avoid the second bolt. The third bolt caught him in the leg, burning through his pants and into his thigh. Again, the alien observers expected him to fall. Again, Jake surprised them. He grunted at the impact, stumbled slightly, then continued his advance. The pain was worse now, 2 separate burns sending waves of agony through his nervous system. But Jake had been trained to function under stress, and pain was just another form of stress. Impossible, breathed Commander Veltar. 2 direct plasma hits, and he is still advancing. The final turret fired desperately as Jake closed the distance. The plasma bolt went wide, and Jake's return shot destroyed the targeting system. The trial chamber fell silent, except for the distant sounds of other participants. Still engaged with their targets, Jake stood among the smoking remains of the turrets, his uniform scorched and his body bearing 2 painful burns. He keyed his comm system to report his success. Sector 7 clear, he announced. All targets eliminated. In the observation deck, the alien leaders stared in stunned silence. They had just witnessed something that challenged everything they thought they knew about combat and injury tolerance. This human had not only survived multiple plasma hits, but had continued to fight at full effectiveness. The trial was just beginning, and already humanity was rewriting the rules of galactic warfare. The second phase of the trial began 30 minutes later. Jake and his squad had been given time to rest and check their equipment, but the alien medical staff had insisted on examining Jake's plasma burns. He had allowed them to scan him with their strange devices, though he didn't understand what all the excitement was about. The burns are healing faster than our models predict, Dr. Kethmel had told Commander Veltar after the examination, and the human shows no signs of neural shock or combat degradation. This is unprecedented. Now Jake stood with the other trial participants in a larger chamber. This space was designed to look like a battlefield, complete with destroyed vehicles, rubble, and defensive positions. The automated systems here were more advanced, with mobile units that could move and coordinate their attacks. Phase 2 will test your ability to work as a team while under sustained fire. The announcement came from speakers hidden throughout the chamber. You will advance through the combat zone and secure 3 checkpoint positions. Plasma weapons will be fired at combat intensity. Jake checked his rifle and looked at his squad. Lisa was calm and focused, her eyes scanning the terrain ahead. Tony was still nervous, but he was handling it better now. Amy was practically bouncing with excitement, eager to get back into action. Same rules as before, Jake told them. Stay low, move fast, and watch each other's backs. These weapons can hurt you, but they can't stop you unless you let them. The trial began with a thunderous barrage of plasma fire. Energy bolts filled the air like deadly lightning, striking the ground and walls around them. The alien participants immediately took cover, moving carefully from position to position while their support teams coordinated defensive measures. Jake's squad moved differently. They advanced with steady determination, taking cover when necessary, but never staying in one place for long. When plasma bolts came close, they simply adjusted their paths and kept moving forward. Tony was the next to get hit. A plasma bolt struck his right forearm as he was climbing over a pile of debris. The energy burned through his sleeve and into his skin, leaving a glowing mark that made the watching aliens gasp in sympathy. Tony looked down at his arm, saw the burn, and rolled up his sleeve to get a better look. The wound was painful and would definitely need treatment later, but it wasn't stopping him from using his weapon or moving forward. Flesh wound, he called out to Jake. I'm good to go. In the observation deck, more alien leaders had gathered to watch. Word was spreading throughout the station about the humans' unusual reaction to plasma fire. Species that had never paid attention to Earth's military trials were now crowding around the viewing screens. This is the 3rd direct hit we have witnessed, reported a crystalline observer, his mineral body reflecting the light from the chamber below. Each time, the humans continue fighting as if nothing happened. Their pain tolerance must be enhanced. Artificially, suggested a gaseous representative, his voice coming from a translation device. No natural species could withstand plasma burns with such ease. Commander Veltar shook his head slowly. Our medical scans show no artificial enhancements. What we are seeing appears to be natural human capability. The trial continued, and Amy was the next to experience plasma fire. She was providing cover for Lisa when a mobile turret flanked their position. A plasma bolt struck her in the left leg, burning through her pants and into her thigh. Amy stumbled, caught herself against a wall, and looked down at the smoking wound. Well, that's going to leave a scar, she said with a laugh. Then she shifted her weight to her good leg and continued shooting at the turret. Medical teams should be responding, observed Hive Queen Zixra. The human has suffered significant tissue damage. They have not requested medical assistance, replied Mordeth. Their emotional state suggests they consider the injury minor. Doctor. Kethmol was watching his medical sensors with growing amazement. The human female has suffered a plasma burn that would incapacitate most species for hours. Her pain receptors are firing at maximum levels, yet she continues to function normally. Lisa was hit while crossing open ground to reach the 2nd checkpoint. The plasma bolt caught her across the back, burning through her uniform and into her skin. She stumbled forward, rolled behind cover, and immediately began returning fire. Status report, Jake called out. I'm fine, Lisa replied, though her voice was tight with pain. Just a little crispy around the edges. The alien observers were beginning to understand that something fundamental was different about human physiology and psychology. These were not enhanced soldiers or specially trained warriors. These were regular humans, and they were treating severe plasma burns as minor inconveniences. We need to understand this capability, Commander Veltar said to his staff. If humans can fight effectively while suffering injuries that would disable our warriors, It changes everything about galactic combat doctrine. The trial reached its climax when the automated systems activated a massive defense turret in the center of the chamber. This weapon was designed to test the limits of even the most advanced species. Its plasma bolts were larger and more powerful than anything they had faced so far. Jake assessed the situation quickly. The turret was too well protected for a direct assault, and its sensors were too advanced for simple evasion. The only way to destroy it was to get close enough to plant an explosive charge, but that would mean crossing a killing field of plasma fire. "I'll go," Jake said simply. "You three provide covering fire." "Jake, that's suicide," Lisa protested. "Those plasma bolts will cook you alive." "Maybe," Jake replied with a grim smile. "But maybe not. Cover me." He picked up the explosive charge and began his approach. The massive turret immediately focused on him, firing bolt after bolt of superheated plasma. Jake dodged what he could, but the rate of fire was too intense for complete evasion. The first bolt caught him in the chest, burning through his uniform and into his skin. The impact knocked him down, but he rolled to his feet and kept moving. The second bolt struck his shoulder, adding to the burn he had received earlier. The third caught him in the leg. Each hit sent waves of agony through his nervous system. But Jake had learned to separate pain from performance. Pain was just information. It told him he was injured, but it didn't tell him to quit. The alien observers watched in stunned silence as Jake continued his advance despite taking multiple direct hits from the most powerful weapon in the trial. System. His uniform was smoking. His skin was burned in several places, and his bio-readings showed extreme pain levels. Yet he never slowed down. Jake reached the turret's base and attached the explosive charge. The device activated with a beep that seemed impossibly quiet after the roar of plasma fire. He turned and began running back toward his squad's position. The turret fired one last time, catching him in the back with a bolt that would have killed most species instantly. Jake stumbled, fell to one knee, and forced himself back to his feet. He made it to cover just as the explosive charge detonated, destroying the massive weapon in a shower of sparks and metal. "Checkpoint 3 secured," he reported, his voice steady despite the pain coursing through his body. The trial chamber fell silent. Every alien observer was staring at the human who had just accomplished something they had thought impossible. He had taken 6 direct hits from plasma weapons and continued fighting at full effectiveness. Dr. Kethmel's medical readings were off the charts. "This is impossible," he whispered. "The human should be unconscious or dead. The pain levels alone should have shut down his nervous system. Yet there he stands," Commander Veltar observed, "injured but undefeated." Jake looked at his squad, all of whom bore plasma burns of their own. They had completed the trial, but more importantly, they had shown the galaxy something new. Humans might not have the most advanced technology or the longest military tradition, but they had something else entirely. They had the ability to keep fighting when any reasonable being would have given up. Implications of this discovery would reshape galactic military thinking for generations to come. But for now, Jake Morrison just wanted to get his burns treated and prepare for whatever came next. The trial was far from over. The medical bay on Kepler Station was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. Strange devices hummed and glowed around treatment tables, while alien medical staff moved between patients with practiced efficiency. The air itself seemed to shimmer with healing energy, and soft music played from hidden speakers to help patients relax. Jake sat on one of the treatment tables while Dr. Kethmel examined his plasma burns with obvious fascination. The Zephyrian physician had requested permission to study the human's injuries, and Jake had agreed out of curiosity more than concern. "Remarkable," Dr. Kethmel muttered as he passed a glowing scanner over Jake's shoulder. "The tissue damage is significant, but your cellular regeneration is operating at 3 times the normal rate for carbon-based life forms. Is that good or bad? Jake asked, watching the alien doctor work. It is unprecedented, Dr. Kethmol replied. Most species require artificial enhancement to achieve such healing rates. Your body appears to do this naturally. Across the medical bay, Lisa was having a similar examination. Her back had been badly burned during the trial, but she was sitting up and joking with the medical staff. Tony was letting a robotic arm treat his arm burn while he ate what appeared to be alien food. Amy was actually flirting with a young Menthari medic. Despite having a bandage wrapped around her leg, Dr. Kethmol finished his scans and stepped back, his reptilian features showing confusion. Sergeant Morrison, may I ask you a personal question? Sure. Doc, how did you continue fighting after taking multiple plasma hits? The pain readings we recorded were at levels that should have caused immediate unconsciousness. Jake thought about the question seriously. I guess it just hurt. Pain doesn't mean you can't function. It just means you're injured. Back in basic training, our instructors taught us that pain is just weakness leaving the body. You learn to push through it. But the neural shock alone should have disrupted your motor functions, Dr. Kethmol protested. Plasma weapons are designed to incapacitate through pain overload. Maybe our nervous systems work differently, Jake suggested. We've been dealing with pain for thousands of years. Our ancestors hunted wild animals with nothing but spears and clubs. Getting hurt was just part of survival. The alien doctor made notes on his digital tablet, clearly struggling to understand what he was hearing. Your species evolved under extreme conditions? Our planet isn't the most hospitable place in the universe, Jake admitted. We've got natural disasters, dangerous animals, disease, extreme weather. You learn to adapt, or you die. Meanwhile, in the command center of Kepler Station, the alien leaders were holding an emergency meeting. The footage from the trial had been analyzed and reanalyzed, and the medical data was being reviewed by experts from across the galaxy. Commander Veltar stood at the head of the conference table, his yellow eyes scanning the assembled representatives. What we witnessed today changes everything we thought we knew about combat capability, he began. These humans have demonstrated a level of pain tolerance and injury resistance that exceeds our most advanced warrior classes. It cannot be natural, insisted General Crix of the armored caste, his mechanical voice echoing through the chamber. No species evolves such extreme capabilities without artificial enhancement. Hive Queen Zixra's compound eyes reflected the light from the holographic displays. Our analysis suggests otherwise. The humans show no signs of genetic modification or technological augmentation. What we observed appears to be baseline human capability. Then how do you explain their performance? Demanded Admiral Vex of the Void Swimmers. They took direct plasma hits that would have killed most of our warriors and continued fighting at full efficiency. Essence Speaker Mordith energy form pulsed with thoughtful patterns. Perhaps we have been approaching this incorrectly. Instead of asking how they withstand pain, we should ask why our species cannot. The observation caught everyone's attention. Dr. Kethmol, who had been invited to present his medical findings, activated the central holographic display. I have completed preliminary examinations of all 4 human participants. Their physical structure is not particularly impressive by galactic standards. However, their neurological and psychological responses to trauma are extraordinary. The display showed brain scans and nerve pathway diagrams. When most species experience severe pain, the nervous system triggers protective responses. Blood pressure drops, motor functions become impaired, and consciousness may be lost. This is designed to prevent further injury by forcing the organism to stop dangerous activities. The human response is different, Dr. Kethmol continued. They experience the same pain levels, but their nervous systems do not trigger the protective shutdown. Instead, they process pain as information while maintaining full combat effectiveness. That seems like a design flaw, observed a crystalline. Representative. Why would a species evolve without protective pain responses? Because their environment required it, replied Commander Veltar, beginning to understand. If their home world was so dangerous that stopping to treat minor injuries meant death, then the species that survived would be those who could function through pain. The implications were staggering. Most galactic species had evolved on worlds where injury was rare and survival was relatively easy. They had developed sophisticated technology and medical systems, but they had never needed to build extreme pain tolerance into their basic biology. Humans had evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill them. They had developed the ability to keep fighting when injured, because stopping meant death. This wasn't a special enhancement or advanced training. It was simply how human beings were built. We need to understand the full scope of this capability, Admiral Lex said. If humans can function through injuries that would incapacitate our forces, they could change the balance of power in galactic conflicts. Or they could be valuable allies, suggested Hive Queen Zixra. Their capabilities complement our own technologies perfectly. Back in the medical bay, Jake was finally getting proper treatment for his burns. The alien healing technology was impressive, using energy fields to accelerate cellular repair and eliminate pain. Within minutes, his injuries were reduced to faint marks on his skin. This is incredible, he told Dr. Kethmo. On Earth, these burns would have taken weeks to heal. And yet, you were prepared to continue fighting with untreated injuries, the doctor replied. That is what we find incredible, Jake shrugged. You do what you have to do. The mission comes first. Dr. Kethmo studied the human's relaxed demeanor. Sergeant Morrison, are you aware that your species is unique in the galaxy? No other intelligent life form has demonstrated your level of injury tolerance. I figured we were probably different, Jake said, but I didn't think it was that big. A deal. It is a very big deal, Dr. Kethmo assured him. Your performance today will be studied for generations. You have shown us something we thought was impossible. Jake looked around the medical bay at his squad members. They were all laughing and talking with the alien medical staff, completely relaxed despite having suffered serious injuries just hours before. To them, the plasma burns had been just another challenge to overcome. Doc, can I ask you something? Of course. What happens now? Are we going to be accepted into the Galactic Defense Council? Dr. Kethmo's reptilian features formed what might have been a smile. Sergeant Morrison, I believe your species has just proven that the galaxy needs you far more than you need us. The question is not whether you will be accepted, but how quickly we can learn from your example. Jake nodded slowly, beginning to understand the magnitude of what had happened. The trial had been designed to test human capabilities, but it had ended up revealing something about human nature that even they hadn't fully understood. They were survivors, not just individually, but as a species. And that made them invaluable in a galaxy full of dangers that most civilizations couldn't even imagine facing. The real trial was just beginning. The final phase of the trial took place in the largest chamber on Kepler Station. The space was so vast that it had its own weather systems, with clouds forming near the ceiling and a light mist hanging in the air. The terrain below was a mix of different environments, from desert plains to rocky mountains, all designed to test the adaptability of the galaxy's warriors. Jake stood with his squad at the starting line, but they were not alone. The final trial required mixed teams with humans and aliens working together to complete a series of complex missions. The alien leaders wanted to see how different species could coordinate their unique abilities. Commander Veltar approached Jake's position, his movements showing a respect that hadn't been there at the beginning of the trials. Sergeant Morrison, I have requested permission to serve alongside your squad for this final test. Jake looked at the tall Zephyrin with surprise. You want to work with us, sir? I want to understand you, Veltar replied honestly. Your species has shown capabilities that challenge everything we thought we knew about warfare. I believe we have much to learn from each other. The teams were announced over the station's communication system. Jake's squad would be joined by Commander Veltar, 2 Manthari warriors named Click and Zar, and a Voidkin energy being called Flux. It was an unusual combination, but Jake was curious to see how they would work together. The final trial will test your ability to adapt to changing conditions while working with unfamiliar allies, the announcement explained. You will face multiple challenges that require different skills and approaches. Success depends on cooperation and mutual trust. The trial began with what appeared to be a simple rescue mission. A simulated civilian transport had crashed in the desert section of the chamber, and the team had to reach the survivors before automated enemy forces could eliminate them. The journey across the desert was the first test of their cooperation. The Manthari warriors, Click and Zar, moved with perfect coordination, their hive mind connection allowing them to share information instantly. Flux, the Voidkin, could scout ahead in energy form, passing through obstacles that would stop physical beings. Commander Veltar provided tactical leadership with his centuries of military experience, but it was Jake's squad that surprised everyone with their endurance. The desert simulation included extreme heat, sandstorms, and difficult terrain. While the alien warriors struggled with the harsh conditions and needed regular rest stops, the humans simply adjusted their pace and kept moving. How are you not affected by this heat? Commander Veltar asked during what should have been a mandatory rest period. His scales were showing signs of heat stress, and even the advanced Manthari were seeking shade. It's hot, Amy admitted, wiping sweat from her forehead. But it's not that much worse than summer training back home. We did exercises in Death Valley that were probably harder than this. Lisa nodded in agreement. The trick is to pace yourself and stay hydrated. Our bodies are pretty good at dealing with extreme temperatures. Tony was actually enjoying himself. This is nothing compared to the survival course in Arizona. At least, here we don't have to worry about real scorpions and rattlesnakes. The alien warriors exchanged glances. They were beginning to understand that human adaptability went far beyond pain tolerance. These beings had evolved to thrive in conditions that would challenge even advanced technology. They reached the crash site to find it surrounded by automated defense units. The enemy forces were using advanced plasma weapons and energy shields, making a direct assault extremely dangerous. Most teams would have spent considerable time planning a careful approach to minimize casualties. Jake assessed the situation quickly. We need to move fast. Those survivors won't last long if we wait around planning the perfect attack. But the plasma fire will be intense, warned Click, her insectoid features showing concern. A direct assault would result in severe casualties. Maybe. For you guys, Jake replied. But we've already proven we can handle plasma fire. We'll go in fast and hard while you provide covering fire and technical support. Commander Veltar wanted to object, but he had seen what humans could do. Very well. But if you take too much damage, we will extract you immediately. The assault began with Jake's squad advancing directly toward the enemy positions. Plasma bolts filled the air around them, and several found their marks. Jake took a hit to his chest that would have put most aliens in the medical bay for days. He grunted, checked that his equipment was still functional, and kept moving. Lisa got caught by a blast that singed her left arm and side. She switched her rifle to her right hand and continued shooting without missing a beat. Tony and Amy each took hits as well, but neither showed any signs of slowing down. The alien team members watched in amazement. as the humans fought through injuries that should have incapacitated them. Commander Veltar found himself inspired by their determination, and he began to understand why human tactics were so different from standard galactic doctrine. They do not fight to avoid injury, he realized. They fight to complete the mission, regardless of personal cost. The rescue was successful, but it was during the extraction that the real test began. As they were carrying the simulated survivors to safety, Commander Veltar was struck by a powerful plasma bolt that sent him crashing to the ground. His advanced armor was cracked, and his left leg was badly burned. "I cannot continue," he admitted, his voice tight with pain. "The injury is too severe." Without hesitation, Jake dropped his equipment and moved to help the wounded Zephyrian. "Tony, Amy, take point. Lisa, cover our retreat. I've got the commander." "Sergeant, I am too heavy." Veltar protested. "You cannot carry me and fight effectively." "Watch me," Jake replied, lifting the much larger alien onto his shoulders. What followed was a fighting retreat that would be talked about in military academies for generations. Jake carried Commander Veltar while still engaging enemy targets with his sidearm. When plasma bolts struck him, he adjusted his grip and kept moving. When the pain became overwhelming, he gritted his teeth and pushed through it. The other team members provided support, but it was Jake's determination that got them all to safety. By the time they reached the extraction point, he had taken 7 more plasma hits and was barely standing. But he was still standing, and Commander Veltar was alive. The final trial ended with Jake collapsing to his knees, his body finally reaching its limits. But he had completed the mission, saved his team, and earned the respect of every alien warrior on the station dot in the medical bay afterward. Commander Veltar sat beside Jake's treatment table. The human was unconscious while alien medical technology worked to heal his extensive injuries, but his vital signs were stable. "I owe you my life," Veltar said quietly. "No Zephyrian warrior could have done what you did today." Dr. Kethmo looked up from his medical readings. The human pushed his body far beyond what should be possible. His determination to complete the mission overrode every survival instinct and pain response. "That is what makes them remarkable," Veltar replied. "They do not fight for glory or advancement. They fight because it is necessary, and they refuse to quit no matter the cost." When Jake finally woke up, he found his room filled with alien visitors. Representatives from dozens of species had come to meet the human who had redefined their understanding of courage and determination. "How do you feel?" asked Hive Queen Zixra. "Like I got hit by a truck," Jake admitted with a weak smile. "But I'll live." "How did we do on the trial?" "You passed," Commander Veltar said. "More than that, you have earned something that cannot be given through tests or evaluations. You have earned our respect." The formal ceremony took place in the station's main assembly hall. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to witness Earth's official acceptance into the Galactic Defense Council. But more importantly, they came to honor a new understanding of what it meant to be a warrior. Jake stood with his squad on the ceremonial platform, their dress uniforms bearing the scars of recent battles. They looked small compared to many of the alien dignitaries, but nobody in that vast hall questioned their right to be there. "Today we welcome not just a new member to our alliance," announced the council president, "but a new understanding of courage itself. Humanity has shown us that the greatest weapon is not technology or superior numbers, but the refusal to surrender in the face of impossible odds." The ceremony concluded with the presentation of the Galactic Defense Medal to each member of Jake's squad. It was the highest honor the Council could bestow, and it had never before been given to an entire species' first representatives. As they left the platform, Commander Veltar walked beside Jake. "What will you do now, my friend?" Jake looked out at the stars, visible through the station's massive viewing ports. Go home, I guess. Train more Marines. Help Earth prepare for whatever comes next. The galaxy is fortunate to have allies like you, Veltar said. When the next crisis comes, and it will come, we will be glad to have humans fighting beside us. Jake nodded, understanding the weight of responsibility that now rested on his species' shoulders. They had proven that humans belonged among the stars, but more than that, they had proven that sometimes the most powerful weapon was simply refusing to give up. The trial was over, but for humanity, the real adventure was just